Oh, we're all happy it's a Friday. That means it's game day here on the Rick Corey Sports Special. Adam Gaylor, first game as head coach at Jenks. I know you've done it before and you've been at Jenks before, but how'd it feel to go rolling out of the locker room as the dude?
Different, at Jinx America, a lot different, than it was at Westmore, a decade ago. But it was awesome, great feeling. Kids came out and played fast, and it was really fun. Always fun to win, but when your name's behind it or in front of it, however you want to look at it, it definitely felt different. But it was awesome.
I would imagine you get 8 touchdowns combined from your stars. Now, I want to be real clear on this, and I apologize. Pronounce Landon's last name for me because I could never figure out if it was Kazar or how do you pronounce his last name?
Kazar, Kizzy is what the kids call him, but yeah, Landon Kazar. Yep.
Gotcha. Well, he had 3 touchdowns, 248 yards. Katie had 208 and five. So you had 8 touchdowns between your stars. Apparently, tremendous nights. Tell me about what they did really well.
Got off to a fast start. Gave us some different looks that we hadn't seen, some different pressures, which always happens, early in the year. Um, but yeah, we wanted to get the ball in obviously number two's hands real fast, but also we wanted to get Landon comfortable throwing the football. So early on, some easy throws that he was able to complete. Feel get settled in. But when you're throwing them to number two, to KD and Caleb Dillard and Malachi and Cato and some of those skill guys, it makes life a lot easier. But that was kind of the game plan going into it, and then kind of build into him throwing the ball vertically down the field, which he did a great job of.
And I think he started 11 or 12 of 17, something like that. So obviously started really, really well and responded. But because it is his first time out there, sometimes you can get the big ice. Maybe being on the road actually helped. Early on, how did you feel he was feeling going out?
Man, he has a poker face. So like you can't tell, whether he's playing well, whether he's playing bad, if the house is on fire, you really can't tell. He has the same demeanor all the time, which, you know, Coach Gaylor is kind of more of a wear your emotions on your sleeve type guy, whereas he is, he's got a great poker face. He'd do really well in Vegas, but I felt it. He responded well. I never felt like even when he made a bad decision or a bad throw that he ever got shook and came back every series. And even on one of the long throws, he throws to our tight end Braxton Daniel. He gets out of the pocket, keeps his eyes down the field, makes a great throw.
And so obviously a good start for him. Let's talk about communication with your staff. You've certainly worked with some of these guys before, and you of course were a coordinator there before, but still different thing. And you're trying to coordinate and communicate. Communicate's a word that's thrown around like culture nowadays. It can mean a lot of different things, but it means to the field, it means to the box, it means to the sidelines. How did you feel that went?
I think it went really well. We had our half game with Bentonville the week before, so kind of worked out some of the kinks and the bugs there as far as that goes. But it's definitely different. Going back sometimes, and watching the sideline video with our guys, but also having the trust in my staff that they're going to communicate what needs to be communicated. Of course, I flip over between offense and defense, and so. I'll say, hey, make sure that we saw this. Make sure you tell, Luke McAnally, one of our D linemen, that he's got to, not hop and he's got to, use his feet better, et cetera. But also, I want to make sure I'm present, when we're on offense as well. So Tyler knows, is it a 4 down territory? Like, does he have to get it on 3rd down? Things like that. And so it's going to be, kind of like with some of our young guys, kind of trials and tribulations, but. Learning how to be a game manager again. It's been a while since I've done it, and a little bit different situation, here than it was at Westmore. But I think it went really well.
And that's the thing that now it's changing so rapidly. In my job at the University of Tulsa, where I'll get on the airplane to go to Las Cruces here in a few minutes, there is now somebody in the booth specifically there for nothing really other than timing. Coach, if you take 2 knees here, here's where we're going to be. Coach, here's what we, and those things are suggestions. Coach makes that decision. Do you have that? We moving toward that in high school? It's really becoming an issue.
Well, they probably got more guys than we do, but we do have a chart that says, yeah, that it lists like it's along with the 2 point chart. Back when I first started, it was just you had the 2 point chart up there, and it's all right, go for one, go for two. Now it's the same thing. Like it's broken down how many timeouts they have versus how much time's left on the clock, whether you need to, run an actual play or you can take a knee and kneel it out. But, analytics has always been big since I've been here with Coach Riggs. He is analytics guru. Like he's the best I've ever been around when it comes to that. So had a really good indoctrination over the last 7 years with Coach Riggs. With that, he's taught me a lot as far as that goes. So I think that's a big piece, and sequencing on, what they call sequencing when you go for it on fourth down, at what area of the field, percentage wise, is it better to go for it on fourth down as opposed to, to punt it or try a field goal. So
Yeah, nowadays that's a lot. Most people that happens a ton. Before we leave communication, the last thing is, and you got to be honest here now, okay? And I know you're honest with me, but when you become a head coach and you're still a coordinator, you talk about clicking to offense, and I know guys who are your offensive coaches talk about clicking to defense, and how much they want to be involved, how much they need to be involved, because you said you have to be present. You find yourself holding yourself up in game one to not say something, or how do you feel? How do you do that?
no, I'm going to offer suggestions, but like in game, Tyler's a great play caller. So like in between series, I might say, hey, on third down, we got this look. You might look at doing, X, Y, Z, things like that. But in game, like, plus we go so fast, it's not like I've got the way we call plays is a little bit different. So I can't think as fast as him offensively. So, but in between series, yeah, I'm like, hey, you're getting this look. This might be a good play, or this formation might be a good look versus what they're giving us,
Oh yeah,
and
I've been
things
around
like
some
that.
head
So
coaches who couldn't not be involved, and others who were very happy to be hands off. It just depended on that style.
you
All right,
got
let's
the
flip it
yeah, you
over to
got
talk
the.
defense. 11 first half yards for Santa Fe. My goodness. I mean, did you just bring out 14, 15 players, or what are you guys doing?
Fortunately, early on, it kind of looked like that. And did a great job. Stopping the run. Did a great job on third down, getting off the field. Kind of, the old curmudgeon in me. We start the second half slow. They come out and they drive the ball down 75, 80 yards. And we had just, we talked about emphasize the middle eight, the last 4 minutes of the first half, first 4 minutes of the second half. And obviously we didn't do a very good job of that. So that was a point of emphasis. And it wasn't anything other than, execution and like basic things, didn't give great effort at times on that drive. So, but proud of the kids for how they started. And then after that drive, really did a good job. And we got to play a lot of guys, and those guys that came in held Santa Fe out of the end zone. And Santa Fe, kept their ones in, trying to score and things like that. And our young guys did a great job of coming in and executing our defense.
It's very, when you're up big at the half and it coming out, it is difficult to maintain the same intensity. How do you go about trying to get that out of your team?
Well, I didn't do a very good job of that this week, but I think it's going to be a learning process. We emphasize you can say it, but we've got a young team. We've got some guys that played a lot on a Friday night for the first time last Friday. So I think it's going to be a process of us learning, how to, great football teams go out and it doesn't matter what the score is, they go out and they execute and they play well, regardless of the circumstances. So
Yep.
that's something we've got to continue to emphasize as a coaching staff.
Business like teams. I love business like teams. Anybody really stand out defensively you'd like to mention?
Clark Carricker, he played a little bit last year, started a couple games for us, but he played really well. Pierce Brand made his first start last Friday, inside linebacker, played really well. Cade Klein was our defensive player of the week, sophomore, son of Union great Corey Klein, Oklahoma great Corey Klein. Had 2 sacks, tackle for loss, was all over the field. He was one of our best tacklers all night. So really good to see some of those, first time starters go out and play well.
That's some pretty good DNA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so let's turn your attention to Owasso. They had a rough night because Bixby's really good, but you saw some flashes from them, and you know a little bit about them. You're back on the road, even though it's not as far. You looked at film. What have you seen so far from Owasso?
Really good football team. Again, the score is not indicative of what type of football team Coach Blankenship and those guys have over there. Outstanding quarterback, great skill positions, speed everywhere, big up front again on offense, and on the flip side, kind of the same thing. They're really big up front, They've got really good skill guys in the back end and the secondary. Number three, kind of a hybrid type guy. They move him around. He plays down the box. He'll play high, and he's a guy you got to make sure you're aware of. And they play really hard, on special teams. They're really well coached. They've got really good schemes in all three phases. So the score last week certainly wasn't an indicator of how Owasso is, and we certainly know we got our hands full.
Now, obviously, with Josh Blankenship there, helping to coordinate that offense, and Bill and he are kind of co-calling, if you will. You're familiar with Josh because you called defenses against him at Broken Arrow. How much of that do you expect to wash over?
Oh, there's a little bit. We all at play callers, we all have our things that we like and things that are going to show up no matter what. And so you see some of those, but also you see a lot of the things that Bill's done over the years, and even some wrinkles added to that. So again, early on, we're going to see some things that we haven't seen. They're going to show us some different looks, and so I think adjusting in game is going to be a big piece. But Josh does a great job. He's an outstanding play caller.
I've asked every coach this week, the old football axiom: you improve most from game one to game two. If that's the case, what do you expect your team to do better in week two?
We got to execute. Like we've got to, we missed some easy throws that are, some of the fast screen bubble type throws that we've got to complete and do a better job of. And on defense, we've got to tackle better. I didn't think we tackled very well at times. And so we hit the tackling circuit a couple times this week and made that an emphasis. But, irregardless of the circumstances, just going out and executing, whether we're up, down, it doesn't matter. Hot, cold, whatever. We've got to do a much better job of executing on offense and in certain situations, and on defense, being more consistent with our tackling.
A couple things before we go. Number one, it's game 7:30. Owasso is unique in that they do 7:30 games. Not really that different. It's 30 minutes, but it does change your travel and things like that. You got to keep the kids busier longer. Does it really make much of an adjustment to you for that half hour?
A little bit, not much. Sometimes when we travel in Tulsa, we'll dress here and tape here, and so we'll do some of our meetings here before, and we'll do a couple of meetings when we get there. But we'll stay a little bit longer, eat here, dress and tape here. So just a little bit, not as drastic as like when you're going to Oklahoma City.
I just hope 169 is okay.
No doubt.
One of the last things I like asking coaches during the week. Now you're focused, you're busy, you've got a family as well. How in the world do you get away from it during the week? How do you relax during the week? How do you clear your mind a little, or do you even have that chance?
Man, I don't relax during the week. Obviously we've got practice and meetings after practice, making sure we're good for the next day. And then, we have junior high games, during the week. Obviously this past week we didn't have a JV game. We'll have a JV game on Monday nights. So it's tough to get away from it. And then I try to help out my son's seventh grade, little league team when I can. So it's tough to get away from football, which is okay with me. That's fine with me. It's usually, late at night, I lay in bed and everybody's asleep and I'm sitting there, watching film, and I've got ESPN on the background, but, relax is probably not the proper term for it. Maybe a little quiet time might be the best way to describe it.
So you'll rest in January.
Absolutely. Yes.
At least a little.
Yeah. Hopefully I have plenty of time to do it then. Yeah.
Yeah, that works out. All right, Coach. Travel safe. Have a good one. We'll visit with you next week.
Thank you.